After our marriage ended, we were horrible as parents. I have to say now that I would give us a grade of F. We were distant, we were bitter, and we were angry at each other. We still had enough manners not to demean each other around the children, but we just disliked each other. But then one reason why I do this, one reason why I'm mature enough to help others, because some of this happened to me. Something horrible happened to us, and my hope is that it doesn't happen to anyone else. I didn't want to speak to her, I didn't want to see her, she didn't want to see me either. We had a red folder that the kids would get an extra copy. I mean, we took this thing far. An extra copy of everything that had to go into school, because I had that written down in my custody order. I get an extra copy of everything. It goes into a red folder, and I would get my red folder, and then I would send my red folder back just to make sure there was distance. I need you to understand that the teachers would contact me for my own parent conference, and she would have her own parent conference. And then we would end up having our own sessions with the same kids. It was that bad. One night, I was dropping my kids off. I was picking my boys up. And my youngest son got in the car, and my youngest son had a cold. And immediately, because I was stooped in bitter, stooped in anger, stooped in some feelings of failure and uncomfortable, just in the muck of a relationship and ego and pride and arrogance. I did what any parent did that's in that. I blamed the other parent for not taking care of him for my son. I blamed her. I'm thinking to myself, she can't even keep my kid from getting a cold. She's not taking care of him. I get my son home, and I do what every parent does. I give him medicine. 4 hours later, we're at University of Penn Hospital. We weren't talking. She did what any parent did when their child is sick, which gives her son medicine. My son gets in the car, I do what every parent does, and I give him medicine. My son is this close from overdosing on medicine. Unfortunately, that was how we stopped. Almost through the sickening, we both end up killing our own child. And I tell this story to all my mothers, my fathers, that I don't want the same thing to happen to you. And that's when we just both just gave up, like enough is enough. And we started with text messages and maybe some emails, and then from then on now, we just, sometimes she calls too much. And we're talking about everything that's happening in their lives. But it took something so incredibly drastic for us to wake up and say, it's not about mom at all. It's not about dad at all. We came together, it's about these kids, and what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong? My name is Joel Austin. I'm from West Philadelphia. I've been living in Philadelphia for the past 46 years. I started my family before I finished college. I had my first son when I was a sophomore, and my daughter right around after when I was a freshman. I have 4 children. I have 3 boys and a girl. My daughter's the oldest. When my son was born, my oldest son was born, I was still in college. It was really, really tough. By the time my second son was born, I was graduating, and I graduated in '95, and I got married, bought a house, and paid for the wedding in 1996. I wanted it. Family to me is success, and so I wanted it. I was married for 10 years. In our 9th year, things that weren't going well, because one thing that we neither of us planned for was we didn't plan for what happens when you have a family. We weren't educated in. We still come from an environment of it's going to be all right. If you just get married and if you just get the house and you just find a person, it's just supposed to just be all right. When my youngest son and my middle son was still in daycare, our daycare bill was close to $750 a month, which is I think you can get a Mercedes for about that price. The bills, the situations, the juggling of it all, it caused really a breakage in it. So I ended up separating after our 9th year, and during our separation, we ended up in custody and support court. I started in support, which was kind of horrible for me because technically you're just not ready. Myself and the men I deal with, my friends and my family, specifically with a lot of the males, it's just a world that you don't think you'll ever be in if you follow the right steps. And the right steps are find someone you love, buy a house, get chocolates on Valentine's Day, do whatever the commercial tells you to do, say yes a lot and take out the trash. It's supposed to all go well. So when it doesn't go well and you end up in this totally different world, you really feel like a child. I ended up, my first stop was support court. I went to support court, and I remember, like it was yesterday, the lady said, if you agree to this amount, that's all you'll have to do. And I thought to myself, so I don't have to go to birthdays, I don't have to buy birthday presents, I can go out and maybe get some 40s and chicken. So I just pay this money. Are you saying I pay this money and that's all you expect from me? That's all I ever have to do? And because I was educated, I thought that was the worst thing that anyone could say to me. I thought it was the most horrible, horrific thing anyone ever said. But I can see now some men saying, that's cool for me. Like, I've been almost told that, and now you see how they're swayed to not needing, feeling as though they don't need to buy a birthday present because they felt as though that's all they're supposed to do. I can't say I was looking for a custody outcome. I believed, I assumed it would just be the most fairest outcome of them all, or I totally assumed that it would just go right. It went horribly wrong. She couldn't agree, I couldn't agree, so the judge told her that she had Monday nights and Tuesday night, and that I had Wednesday night, and that I had Thursday night, and then the mother would have Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night, and then I would have Monday night and Tuesday night, and then the mother would have Wednesday and Thursday. It was the worst custody order. You're talking 3 boys. I have 3 sons by my ex-wife and one, my daughter's before I got married. But you're talking 3 boys in school, in daycare, trying to get them ready. They have to wear sneakers to school on Wednesday because that's the day they have gym, and then on the other day they have to wear shoes, but the shoes are still at my house. And then it was so bad it actually made us talk a little bit more. But I've been in custody court at least for the past 12 years, back and forth. One of the most difficult days that I had in court was representing myself, and it didn't go well because I was still emotional over the events that had taken place. I got frustrated with one of my oldest son, who was now 17, and we ended up getting into a scuffle at his mother's house. And which is something that unfortunately sometimes happens between dads and their sons. And I was so frustrated and so overcome with anger that the judge saw my anger. Again, he's reading a report that I was angry, and as I'm proving to him that I'm not angry, I end up getting angry. And then that just clouded all doubt and proved that there was a situation. And I started to read stuff, and I started to learn how to translate my language into the court language. I learned that court doesn't want to hear about your child's mother. It wants to hear about what you're doing. I learned to tell the court, I never even told the court that I was an assistant Boy Scout leader, which would have helped a lot of times earlier. What I have now is full custody of 2 and shared custody of 1. But to be honest with you, where I'm at now is where I would love everyone to be, which is I just really don't need an order. I have not followed an order for the last 4 years. I pick them up, I drop them off, if they need to go to a party, they can stay over mom's. That's where I want it to be, and that's where I'm really got to be, which is not needing to follow the order. Custody court runs on who is a caregiver, who is doing hair, who is cuddling, who is putting in the bed, who is giving milk to, who is picking up from daycare. And I find a lot of males are not looked in that role, and that they have to make sure the court knows that they have they're strongly into that role. Once they're in court, they end up getting short-sighted because they never thought that it was okay to do your daughter's hair because it wasn't manly enough, or it wasn't in my, my gender. No one taught me that. I find in our fatherhood programs, when we start teaching that, they start loving that. I also counsel my guys on saying some of the smallest words that mean the most, that are also the words that most males don't use. Words like "I'm sorry," "I apologize," "forgive me," "thank you," and and "I love you." Words like that, or "let's work it out." Little words like that could change a lot of this process. Sometimes you're in it because you haven't said any of those words ever. I counsel my guys on not giving up on this fight, because sometimes it can be a fight. But I also say to them, is there anything else in this world worth fighting for? If you have to go 12 rounds or 15 rounds, what else is worth fighting for than that quality time with your child? I counsel them on their role and their responsibility, not their financial responsibility, but their responsibility of raising them. And when I talk about role, higher education, fathers bring up reading skills and math skills, the role, the self-esteem in girls. There's so many we can go on and on. I also say that you have to understand that there's no win in court. There's compromise. Let me take the win back, because a lot of people I know go for their win, and there's no win. There's only what's best for the children. That's very important. Which is having you in their lives is what's best for them.